Hello and welcome to BadgerCam. As it's the 78th year anniversary of D-Day today, I decided to do a couple of kits based around this historic occasion. First in this lineup of videos is going to be this, the Airfix Classics 1/72 scale L.C.M MK3 landing craft and M4a2 Sherman tank. Both of these saw action on the beaches of Normandy, as depicted on the lovely box art here, and fit the bill for interesting things like nothing I have ever built before, so I thought I'd give these kits a go. Without further ado though, let's have a look at what's in the box. In the box you get a full colour instruction set and paint guide, a mixed bag of bits for the tank, a mixed bag of bits for the landing craft, and a very small set of decals to finish both models off. First off the bat to do is the tank. Looking at the spurs, there's a lot of flash and odd placed ejection ports on these parts, but being part of the Classics line, this is to be expected as it's an old re-release of a kit made in the 60s, but at first look it's still probably a serviceable kit. It's just going to need a bit of a clean up and TLC. Wheels are first on the menu. This was probably the worst bit of the whole build, so it was nice to get it out of the way. Lots of odd flash and holes that needed to be re-drilled and tabs cleaned up on these parts. This was a bit fiddly to put together, mostly due to the size of all these bits, but they went together okay, so no harm, no foul. With the wheels done, it's time to add them to the sides of the hull, along with the tension wheel and drive wheel. The drive wheel on this is absolutely horrible, as one of the teeth is also one of the tabs, so you've got to kind of cut the tab off and shape it into a tooth. I messed up on this, and yeah, now it's hidden next to the side of the hull, so no one will ever see it. Other than that little disaster though, all these parts went together fine. Then it's on to adding the side bits. These go together in a roundabout way. They kind of makes more sense when they're all on the tub, and you can kind of jostle them into a position which seems comfortable for them all. Other than a few little flash lines and seam lines between them, they go together well though. So yeah. With that done, it's onto the turret. Not much to report here, the hatches are a little bit fiddly, but a few machine guns later and that's the main tank done, other than the tracks, which I'm going to add on later once I've done the painting. Now onto the landing craft. The details on these spurs look a lot better than those of the tank. Everything seems a lot sharper and crisper. The figures look alright for 1/72 scale too. My only guess is that this old mould got run a lot less than the Sherman one, which I imagine was also used for an individual standalone kit. Strangely though, the plastic for the landing craft parts seems quite a bit more solid than those for the Sherman, and I'm having a bit of difficulty getting my snips through it. First on the course is the tub, adding the sides and top to this. I found the top was the best thing to add first, as then the sides have something to fit up to. I was quite impressed by this, as it fit together really well for some big parts that look quite bendy out of the box, and yeah, very little persuasion was needed and no filler. Now it's time to do the boathouse. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to drive the boat from this tiny box. It looks really claustrophobic in there. But I guess if I was getting shot at, this would be a welcome steel coffin. This needs painting on the inside and a figure adding before I can progress on with the build. So I'm going to get a coat of neutral Tamiya grey down. And yeah, though it's not a colour match, no one's going to be able to see into the thing when it's built. Off camera, I went off and painted the figure. When I went to put him in, it turns out the floor is a little bit low. Could probably have been done with being put in a bit higher. So the figure is now levitating to get a view out of the drive window. But like I say, no one will ever know. You'll just be able to see a silhouette of a chap with a helmet anyway, with how small all of this is. Anyway, we buried the boatman sealed in his coffin. It's onto the rudder and propellers. These were simple and easy. These went on without much faff other than a bit of minor cleanup. Speaking of cleanup, the cleanup though on all of these parts is absolutely minimal compared to those of the parts for the tank. Now it's onto the upper deck details. All simple and easy to do. No real faff with any of these parts. Just be sure to reread and check the instructions as you go if you're building one of these at home, as there are a lot of holes on the back deck and it can get a little confusing. With all these parts in place though, it's a simple step of adding the rails to the upper deck, and that's the build of the landing craft done and dusted. Now onto the painting. Off camera, I've already coated the tank in a layer of Tamiya khaki drab, so now it's time to base coat the landing craft. For the base coat, I used Tamiya neutral grey, and I thought I'd be able to use this for the final coat as well, but it turned out to be too dark. And then I bounced in the opposite direction of the grayscale and went over it with some Vallejo light gore grey, which is far too light for the model. In the end, off camera, I mixed the two together, 2 parts light to 1 part dark, and got a decent-ish colour match for this model. Using 2 different paints though, sort of worked okay on this one, but they didn't mix fully together. On this model it gave a nice weathered streaking effect, but yeah, it could have become a disaster. Once the main grey was on, I masked off the lower hull, then painted the area with a mix of Army Painter Pure Red and Army Painter Oak Brown in a mix of 1 part red to 3 parts brown. This gave me a rough match for the Humbrol 113 that the kit suggests using here. As I was using bog standard masking tape, as soon as I got a layer around the waterline, I took this off to avoid the paint soaking into the masking tape and working its way up into areas I didn't want it. Then I filled in all the rest of the areas, and yeah, that's the main layers on. Now all I had to do was pick out some details in gunmetal, before adding some dark dirt wash to dirty the whole thing up. Yeah, after wiping most of the dark dirt wash off, I picked out a few shadows with some Army Painter Strong Tone, and that's the landing craft done. For the tank, as it's tiny, I decided to keep things really simple. I gave the undercoat of khaki drab a quick dry brush of some Vallejo US Army dark green to add some highlights, a bit of paint fading or some chips. This is that sort of scale, it's all impressionist anyway. Then I gave it a quick light wash of dark dirt to give it some shadows and muck, and picked out the machine guns with a bit of gunmetal, and that was the tank done. Then it's onto the decals, which took all of about 5 minutes. There's only about 6 of them. followed by a quick coat of Humbrol matte clear to seal everything in. That done, all it was a stage of was adding the tanks that I simply painted with a little bit of matte black and gave them a light dry brushing. And that's the tank done in probably what only took about an hour. Now just to add the whole thing to the landing craft, and this is the finished model. All in all, I've really enjoyed building this kit. Being a vintage classic kit, there is quite a bit of flash to clean up and ejection ports on some of the parts in weird places, but nothing I feel affects the overall enjoyment of building the kit. The landing craft is the better model out of the two though. All in all, the fit's okay. A few parts could be better, like between the main hull lines on the tank, but that's not anything that can't be fixed via sanding or a little bit of a trimming down with a sharp knife. I missed doing this though, so yeah, the line's permanent on this model, but I doubt anyone will really get a decent look of it as it's glued down into the base of a landing craft. But all in all, for £10 I paid for this kit, it's a quick and enjoyable build, and well worth the price. It builds into quite a nice model. Anyway, that's my build review of the Airfix L.C.M MK3 and Sherman. I hope you enjoyed the video, but until next time, look after yourselves and have a good one. Goodbye.